You know, it's a shame, folks. Today I wanted to talk about the future, my plans, what I plan to do about Disney Star Wars, but it seems that is not to be. I will have to save that for another video because the butcher of the Star Wars universe is doubling down. Right now I am sitting in front of an article entitled Rian Johnson Talks, The Last Jedi Criticism. Says he wouldn't change a thing, in quotes. So obviously Disney is allowing him to say that. The stupidity is strong with them as well, since they are allowing him to say that. They are giving him his trilogy, and it's going to be just as dumb as The Last Jedi was, clearly. And you got to be pretty dumb to take the character of Luke Skywalker in 2017 and totally get him wrong in a movie. I mean, getting anything wrong is bad. But the one character you should know you have to get right in order to pull the movie off is Luke Skywalker. And then you can get everything else right around that fact that you got this character right. You get that character wrong, everything else pretty much goes wrong. Greetings, Star Warriors. Welcome to the Outer Rim. Since I gave that long monologue in the beginning of this video, I am going to jump right into the article. And it says, when you're a director and your movie opens in theaters, it's a stressful time. You're wondering if people are going to like it, if audiences will respond to it, if folks will understand what you were trying to say. Multiply that times 1,000 and you start to kind of understand what it's like to be releasing not just any movie, but a Star Wars movie. I wonder if the person writing this realizes exactly why it was imperative for someone like Rian Johnson to get Luke Skywalker right. You only have one chance to do it. Okay, continuing on though. When Star Wars The Last Jedi hit theaters, it had already screened for press and received positive reviews. But writer-director Rian Johnson knew he also had fans at large to consider, which was a little nerve-wracking given some of the intense choices he made in the movie. Not nerve-wracking enough, obviously. As we all know, there was a vocal contingent of The Last Jedi haters online that proceeded to hurl tweets at Johnson telling him he ruined their childhood, had burned down Star Wars, etc. On a side note, please don't threaten directors. It's very uncool. Now, I'm not talking about those that simply disagreed with the movie's take. That's fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But quite a few folks took it upon themselves to throw really ugly insults and comments Johnson's way, which is dumb. When you make a movie and then that everyone thinks is terrible, and then you defend yourself after you insulted their intelligence, and you can't stand to take insults, I think you're dumb. And if you defend someone like that, then you're dumb. Johnson took the criticism very professionally, not really engaging with the trolls who had only extremist, ridiculous things to say to him, and addressing a few points of criticism by simply explaining his point of view as best he could. He never addressed points of criticism. He acted like he didn't know what the points of criticism were as you're asking him. Too long didn't read? Rian Johnson did not set out to ruin Star Wars. He was simply trying to tell the best and most interesting version of the story he wanted to tell. The thought must have occurred to him that he wasn't the person to tell that story. He wanted to further his career. He wanted to stamp his name on Star Wars. It's not too hard to figure out. He didn't want to ruin Star Wars. He wanted to make a name for himself. But he couldn't do that unless he did what Kathleen Kennedy told him to do. But appearing on the filmcast via the playlist for a lengthy chat about The Last Jedi with host Dave Chin, Johnson spoke a bit more about that initial backlash and how it affected him. The Looper director explains that in the moment, since this was all on social media, he had no context for these intense reactions. No context. What is that supposed to mean? Well, let's find out. He's got a quote here. The crazy thing is, I had no perspective on these tweets. I had no perspective in terms of how big a group of people this was, even what they were upset about specifically. Over the next few weeks, I was able to contextualize it and feel much better about it. But at the time, I thought, oh my God, does everybody hate this? Did I totally mess up? Was I wrong? And I had a very dark hour of the soul because I had no context for this. The darkest thing about it is he doesn't know that his dark hour hasn't ended yet. I mean, he's got to be the densest person on the planet. And let me just explain what I'm talking about here. After someone like James Cameron releases Avatar or Titanic, you take either movie because the two highest grossing movies in history. Take either of them. After he releases those, do you think there's any way, shape, or form he doesn't hear about the critical, whatever the critics are saying, whatever the people are saying, whether it's a critical failure or a critical success? Do you think there's any way he doesn't know that and it takes some weeks to figure it out? So I'm supposed to believe Rian Johnson has his head in the clouds. Well, I mean, he made that movie like he had his head in the clouds, that's for sure. So let's continue, though. Johnson's only human, and hearing some angry negative reactions to a movie you poured your heart and soul. How would you know he poured his heart and soul into it? He effing copied The Empire Strikes Back and parts of Return of the Jedi point for point. He stole from someone else and called it his own film, and you're going to tell me he poured his heart and soul out into it? Moving on. But the filmmaker says that even with the criticisms, nobody's made a point that would have altered his approach to the movie. And that's how you know he's insane. Insanity is making the mistake and making it over and over again without learning from it, without changing your ways. You just do the same mistake over and over again. That's the definition of insanity. And that's what this idiot is. Of course, we all understand why he did what he did. Kathleen Kennedy told him to do that stuff. But another quote. There's nothing I've read or seen that's made me think, oh God, did I kind of mess that up? I would have done that differently if I could go back. Still genuinely believe in all the decisions I've made. The uproar over this movie is greater than any I've ever seen about anything Star Wars, or maybe anything in fiction, period, and you're going to tell me that you have no doubt that you made the right decision in every case. And to that, my response is, if you didn't say something like this, if you did say that you made a mistake, you probably wouldn't get your trilogy. You probably wouldn't get a paycheck from Disney. So you're just an untrustworthy idiot as far as I'm concerned. But moving on, which makes sense. It's not like Johnson wrote this movie in a vacuum. In the planning stages, he lived in San Francisco and would go into Lucasfilm multiple times a week to pitch his ideas to the Star Wars story. What difference does that make? Why should I have confidence in the Star Wars story group? The decisions he made on The Last Jedi had been intensely thought out and bandied about amongst the people who are in charge of spearheading the entire Star Wars empire. They were not intensely thought out. He copied the plot from The Empire Strikes Back and an integral part of Return of the Jedi. He changed some names, he wrote some different dialogue, and that's it. That's all he did. He didn't even come up with the names of the characters. Were there any new characters in this movie? Holdo was one, and Rose was the other, and DJ was one. But other than that, there was nothing else. He didn't do anything. Nothing was thought out. Everything was already laid out for them 30 years ago. So consider that next time you criticize Johnson as a fake fan. He's a fake fan. I'm criticizing him. Regardless, he's not going anywhere soon, as Johnson is next concocting an entire new Star Wars trilogy from the ground up. And as a massive fan of what he did on The Last Jedi, I couldn't be happier. He'll probably be going somewhere a whole lot sooner. I remember a lot of people saying that same thing about what's his name, Zack Snyder. Yeah, he's not going anywhere. He's going to be directing all these Justice League movies. Where is he now? Like it or not, without the audience and their money, and they're coming to see your movie and rave and rant about it, you got nothing. You got nothing. But like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share this video across the galaxy. And as always, if you're listening, you are the new rebellion. 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 You are the new